be read to. You say, wait a minute. How can I read to these kids? I got to help these kids out. You don't read to these kids. Remember I said you increase responsibilities in decision making? You number off your oldest reading group. Usually it's your 6th graders, including the buzzard reading group. And they rotate out of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grades and read to them every day. Do you know a 6th grade buzzard can read a 1st grade reader with pizzazz? And some of those 6th graders, the only reason they're getting their math done is if they don't get it done, they lose their turn to go down and read to 1st graders. And 6th graders have learned a lot. I've had them come up to me and say, you know, it's real hard to read to 2nd graders when they're talking. Oh, isn't that interesting? Amazing. And you know what? They don't call them names on the playground, they call them by name, because we're creating a community in our school. And the 2nd graders send notes to the 6th graders who have come down to read for them. And the 6th graders make Valentine placemats for the 2nd grade group that they work with. We can create a community without a lot of scratch and sniff stickers and stars, I believe. Now we have a problem though. Yesterday the 6th graders came down and read Dinosaur Story Part 1. Today they're going to read Dinosaur Story Part 2. We got a 2nd grader here who loves dinosaur stories. But he didn't get his math done. He opens his makeup folder. There it is. He's going to try 3 con games on us. They practice them in the womb. They know them long before you and I are ever where they're playing games with us. If you can get good at not giving in to these 3 cons, I think you'll find you have a whole lot more energy left for teaching. Con 1. Oh, please, Mrs. C, please let me listen to the dinosaur story. I promise I'll get my math done tonight. I'll do triple tomorrow. Oh, please, oh, please. Begging, bribing, weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth is a con 1. The problem with con 1 is we tend to give in, and it affects the kid's ego. We say, okay, go ahead and listen to the dinosaur story, but tomorrow you get your math done. What we have just said to that kid is, I don't believe in you. I don't trust in you. You're not big enough to handle the consequences everybody else can handle. I'll take care of you. And how often do we do that to kids with special needs? Here's the rules for everybody else, hon, but not for you. Well, I will own as a parent and a teacher, it's real hard not to give in to a con 1 around 3 groups of people. You get good at not giving in around these 3 groups, you got it made. First group's the general public. When you're in restaurants, grocery stores, field trips, churches, and on the mall, the kids going, please, we tend to give in. Second group, when the principal's in observing in the classroom, we tend to give in. Third group's the hardest group for parents. You get good at not giving in around this group, you got it made. Grandparents. But how do you avoid giving in to a con 1? You be assertive. And I'm not talking that assertive aggressiveness where you attend assertiveness workshop and aggress all over everybody because you have a right. That is not true assertion. True assertion is your ability as an adult to recognize your own rights, your own needs, and your own wants for the 3 very different things that they are, and the rights, needs, and wants of the child you're dealing with, and in your wisdom to see all 6 of those in relationship to the whole. The child wants to listen to the dinosaur story, needs to get his math done, has a right to be treated with dignity and respect. He doesn't have a right to the dinosaur story. He has a greater right, and that is as a child to be treated with dignity and respect. You may need and want, and I believe in education is both of those, you may need and want him to get his math done, but you don't ever have a right to use brute force, ridicule, or embarrassment to make that kid mind. You don't have that right. You have a greater right, and that is, as an adult, to be treated with dignity and respect. Your right, child's right, supersedes both parties' needs and wants. So how do you come back assertively? The kid's tears are rolling down his eyes. You just calmly say to the kid, you need to do your math during makeup time. Please note it's the same as the first line. You don't even have to get creative. You just say it over. You need to do your math during makeup time. But watch how you speak. We speak 5 ways. Our bodies, our face, our eyes, our tone of voice, and what we actually say. Only 20% of what you communicate to your students is done with the words you use. The other 80% is how your body speaks those words. It's like that 3rd grade boy who had a teacher who did not like 3rd grade boys. Kid nailed her on it. Said, you don't like 3rd grade boys. Teacher said, oh, hon, I love little 3rd grade boys. He looked back up at her and said, would you tell your face that then? Make sure what you say and what you say are one and the same. So you just come back and say, you need to do your math during makeup time. If a con 1 doesn't work, kids are going to try a con 2. They don't necessarily do it in this order, but it's a fairly typical order. Con 2. You mean, old lady, I had my hand up 6 times. You never came around and helped me. How come he only has to do 4? I have to do 40. It's not fair. I hate you. This is dumb. This is stupid. This is boring. And those of you who are step-parents will recognize this one. You're not my real father. Wait till I go see my dad this weekend, and you could just go. Con 2 is anger and aggression. Con 1 we give in. It affects the kid's ego. Con 2 we hook in, and it affects our heart. We get angry back. Don't you talk to me like that. Don't you ever talk to your teacher like that. And what we forget is that aggression only begets more aggression. If they get angry and you get angry, they'll get angrier, you'll get angrier, they'll get angrier, you'll get angrier, and you have to explain the child abuse team, superintendent, and school board while you wrung a kid's neck over a dinosaur story, because you're going to lose it. Have you ever in anger said something you wished you hadn't said, done something you wished you hadn't done? Do you know why that happens? When you get angry, the adrenaline rises, shuts off the thinking portion of your brain, not theirs, yours. Another thing we do when a kid's in a Con2 is we argue. I refuse to argue with anyone over 2.5. Their language skills are too well developed and I'll lose. Remember that the next time you go to argue with a 12-year-old. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Another thing we do when a kid's in a Con2 is we let it affect the way we treat other kids. We're screaming at this kid. Another kid comes up and says, will you tie my shoe? Tie it yourself. And by the way, young man, you should have gotten Velcro sneakers if you can't tie bows. I don't know what I'm going to do with these kids. They're driving me nuts. You have a coronary, they get a new teacher. It's not fair. Aggression begets aggression. Now, passivity invites it, so you don't want to be a passive teacher. Oh, don't talk to me like that. Wait till the principal gets back. Aggressive people seek out passive people to attack. You're going to be a battered junior high teacher. Aggression begets aggression. Passivity invites it. But the beauty and power of assertion is that it can dissipate a student's aggression. But I would caution you, as powerful as assertion is, aggression's more fun. I mean, you're at a family get-together. You're just waiting for your sister-in-law to make a comment so you can leap in with the one you've been saving for 6 weeks. You know, that is more fun, but it is not more productive. How do you deal with a Con2? Same way you dealt with Con1. Assertion. But being assertive when a kid is screaming is not easy. What you need to do is center your own energy, calm yourself down. And when you do that, you have the opportunity then to either redirect the child's energy or grab onto that energy and give life to his learning, to discipline them, show them what they've done wrong, give them ownership of the problem, give them ways to solve it, leave their dignity intact. Kids screaming at you, you calm yourself down and you softly say, you need to do your math during makeup time. It's hard to do when a kid's screaming. You want to elevate your own voice, but you put your voice down and you say, you need to do your math during makeup time. If a Con2 doesn't work, kids are going to try Con3. This is the easiest con for us to get hooked into, and this is the con that most kids will use when they know they can't get us with 1 and 2. Con3 is the most powerful con a kid has. No one can make a kid do something they choose not to do. In fact, there are 3 groups of kids who don't bother with 1 and 2. They go directly to 3. The 3 groups of kids who go directly to 3 are the 3 ages of rebellion. Kids rebel at 2 against mom, 5 against mom and dad, puberty against the entire older generation, of which you and I happen to be a member. Now, if any of you happen to have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old and you work with adolescents and you wondered why you were cracking up, now you know. And if at this point in your life you also happen to have a spouse who's reaching 40, you have 4 at the age of rebellion. Hang in there, it is tough, but it will pass, right? Just like birthdays do. Con3. I ain't going to do it. You can't make me do it. I don't want to listen to a dumb dinosaur story anyway. Spank me, it won't hurt. Send me to the office, it's fun down there. I'll check the book out of the library myself. It's the sulk. Normal, healthy kids will sulk for 5 minutes, gifted for 10. You say, oh, we got a lot of severely gifted kids at this school. No, what we have are a lot of kids who have learned how powerful that con is. Con1 we give in, Con2 we hook in, but Con3 we go into a 1 or a 2. Oh, come on, you can do it, I'll help you. Or wipe that smirk off your face, or I'm going to wipe it off for you. And they have us. How do you deal with a Con3? Same way you dealt with 1 and 2. You need to do your math during makeup time. Don't be surprised at that point if the kid doesn't go, I know, I need to do my math during makeup time. And they mock you beautifully, bite tongue. It is their way of saving face. I'm not saying ignore it. I've had parents say to me, I'm not letting any kid of mine talk to me like that. I said, well, what are you going to do? Smack them, I'll show them. I said, well, about all you've shown them is when they're bigger they can hit. How do you deal with a Con3? You center your own energy, calm yourself down, and you come back with what you need from them. You need to do your math during makeup time. And when they mock you, and by the way, that's the one that gets me, is the mocking. Nah, 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 nah. Each of us have to know which con gets us. Some of you, it's when the tears roll, you give in every time. Others of you, when the anger comes, it pushes every button you've got here and your mother's words roll right off your tongue. You swore you'd never talk like her, and there it comes. And some of us, it's the and that gets me. And so what I really have to do is center my own energy, calm myself down. And this kid says, I know, I need to do my math during makeup time. And I say to the kid, you're right. You need to do your math during makeup time. They hate it. What if they still don't get it done? You send it home in a brightly colored envelope. Looks like a red flag coming through the front door. No guarantee they're going to get it done, nor is there any guarantee their parents won't do it for them. But you have done all you could do. You set it up so they can be successful. You've taught with pizzazz. You've shown them where they're at, where they're going, what they need to do to get there, and you've said to the kid, you get a second opportunity. You can't make a kid do his or her work. All you can do is set it up to be more comfortable for them to get it done. What if they hurry up and get it done, and it's still legible, and the kid says, this isn't my best work? I don't say, oh, that's all right, turn it in, because then I own it. And the parents say, how come you turned in such a sloppy paper? Kid said, teacher told me to. Kid turns in a paper and he says, this isn't my best work. I said, well, you can turn it in or do it over. Choice is yours. They hate it because now we put the problem back on them. But we have to give options for kids. You can turn it in or do it over. And if they're options, they have to be with equal pizzazz or they're not options. I cannot say to my own kids, you want to go to the grocery store with mom, pick out your favorite cereal, I'll give you a quarter, you want to stay home with your dad and clean your room. That's not equal pizzazz. I might as well say, I need you to go to the grocery store with me. But you can either turn it in or do it over. Leaves it up to the kid to make a decision. And I haven't weighted it in any way. What if there is no option, though? What if that assignment is out to lunch? You can't read it. I'm not going to say, is this the best you can do? Do you expect me to read this? What is your parent, a doctor? A little sarcasm thrown in there. I say, I cannot accept this. You need to do it over. Oh, please, you got to accept it. It's due today. I can't accept it. You need to do it over. Hey, it ain't my fault. They stole the stuff out of the library. She kept pushing my desk. I can't accept it. You need to do it over. I ain't doing it over. I know. You can't accept it. You need to do it over. There's a high school kid in the same 3 cons. They just do them faster. And you need to keep coming back with what you need from the kid. But when you tell kids what you need, your overt and covert message must match. What you say and what you mean needs to be one and the same. But how often do we mix those messages? We say things like, oh, I like the way this group is working. And we stare at this group. Or we have one kid taking notes and the other kid just kind of sitting there and he's supposed to be taking notes. And we say, I like the way Sally's taking notes, as we stare at Johnny. No, don't treat kids in a way you yourself would not want to be treated. How would you like it if you showed up in your classroom, the principal is standing by your bulletin board going, Mrs. Jones changes her bulletin boards every week. Think of what you'd think. Well, I knew she didn't do a whole lot of anything else. Let her come on down and change mine. Why do you think kids wouldn't have those same thoughts? I need to say to Johnny, this is what I need from you, not look how nicely she's taking notes. When I compliment this group over here, my body must speak to this group. It can't even be remotely intended for this group. What you say and what you mean needs to be one and the same. So in Rule 3, you have to set it up so they can be successful. You have to teach with pizzazz. They have to know where they're at, where they're going, what they need to do to get there, and you need to let them know what will happen if they get their work done, what will happen if they don't get their work done. And you say, wait a minute, what about these rules? Can I ever ban? Yes. What if a kid doesn't turn in an assignment, shows up in class, broken arm, day before term papers due, and you have said, if you turn your paper in, you get the grade you earned. If you choose to turn in late, you choose a lower grade. I'll respect your right to make that choice, give you what you asked for. We got a high school kid, broke his arm day before the term paper. Now, he broke his arm in the championship basketball game, made the final shot, won the game, and on the way down, broke his arm. We got another kid comes in, same period, another broken arm. Make sure it's the writing arm here. Both kids have broken arms. He got in a fight after the game with some people from the kids in the other town. He's got a broken arm. We are often inclined to give one an exception, but not the other. If you're going to bend your rule, you must bend it because of the situation, not who the kid is. So if they come in and cannot write, and you want to give them an extension, make sure you give both of them an extension. It isn't who they are, who they're related to, what position their parents held in the community, who caught them. Can teachers have different sets of rules? Yes. A kid can be in Mrs. Jones' class and Mr. Smith's class. Mrs. Jones has one set of rules, Mr. Smith has another, and kids will do fine. Kids even know which parent to ask for what. You know, they're very flexible. 2 teachers can have the same set of rules and different consequences, and kids will do fine. But what the kids are counting on is that you say what you mean what you say, and you do what you said you were going to do. That you are consistent, firm, and fair. And if you bend the rule, it's because of the situation, and you would bend it if any kid were in that situation. not because of who the kid is. Fourth rule is the most encompassing rule. Respect your own and others' life space. But first of all, you and I have to respect our own life space. And we don't always do such a great job of that. Somebody says, gee, that's a neat outfit. We say, oh, it's nothing. It's the only thing I had in the closet. Or, wow, that's a beautiful bulletin board. Well, if I'd had more green. Gee, that was a good lecture. Well, if the film strip hadn't broken. Wow, you've lost weight. Well, I got 30 more pounds to go. We can't just say thank you. You want to buffer kids from sexual promiscuity, drug abuse, and suicide? They need three things. I like myself. I can think for myself. And there is no problem so great it can't be solved. The last two depend on the first for their foundation. I like me. Kids do not kill themselves if they like themselves. But first we have to model that we like ourselves. When's the last time you told yourself how neat you were? You're the only person going to spend the rest of your life with you. It'd be kind of nice if you liked you. I like me. I'd like each one of you to say something nice about yourself every single day in front of your students. They may not agree, junior high they won't, but say it anyway. I used to walk into my resource room and I'd say, I like the way I put that unit together, and one of the kids in the back says, I don't. I said, but I do, and that's what counts. And you know what they say when you say that in junior high? Weird. This woman is weird. But they've been watching sitcoms, and Joan Rivers and Don Rickles and Roseanne rip themselves and one another apart under the guise, and it is a guise of humor. And here's somebody saying, I like me. Weird. But pretty soon they realize you're not weird. You know what's so neat about liking yourself? If you can like somebody with that many flaws, and you're the only one who's going to know them all, how much more open will you be to kids who aren't perfect? And none of them are coming through our doors. I like me. If you're married, I want you to say something nice about yourself every single day in front of your spouse. Now, they're going to be shocked. But what a pleasant surprise to be reminded of why you made the choice you did. Think about it. We go home and say, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm no good. They say, why did I marry her? But you do things that are good for your body, your mind, and your spirit. They say, now I remember. It doesn't hurt any marriage to be reminded every single day of why you made the choice you did. I like me. And if you got your own kids at home, say something nice about yourself every single day in front of them. Again, when they reach puberty, they won't agree. But you will have given them 12 years to like themselves before all the little zits come out all over their faces. I like me. First of all, you've got to convince kids that you like yourself. Next, you have to teach them that they can like themselves. And one of the best ways to do it is, again, those 6 critical life messages. I believe in you. I trust in you. I know you can handle this. You are listened to. You are cared for. And you are very important to me. That isn't going to be enough every single day. Every kid needs a smile, a hug, and humor every day. Modified hug, junior high and up for your protection, but it's a smile, a hug, and humor every single day. But humor needs to be with kids, not at them. But think of the times we use at them humor with our kids, especially secondary students. We got a kid not paying attention. You know, he's just kind of flaking out in junior high, off in his own world. You know what we do? We call on the kid who's not paying attention. Now, that's dumb. Why would we call on a kid who doesn't know the answer? Oh, so we could mini lecture him. If you'd have been paying attention, you'd know the answer. He knows that. Or we use humor. But humor needs to be with kids, not at them. But how often do we use at them humor? Earth to Christopher, Earth to Christopher. Christopher, has the elevator reached the top floor yet? Now, don't any of you go back and say, boy, do I have 2 new lines to use on those kids. Those are not good lines. I notice the kid's not paying attention. You know what I do? I walk past the kid, put my hand on the kid's shoulder, ask the kid behind him a question. But you know what? I have that kid's attention. And then when I step back, I don't growl at the kid. I smile, which is one of the last things the kid's expecting. And a few moments later, when he is nervously paying attention, I call on him. It's called win-win. That's where the title comes from. Winning at teaching without beating your kids. I believe in education. You and I can win, and it is never at the expense of a student. I don't have to put kids down to make me look good. In fact, I've got to say to kids, I hear you. And when a kid's moping around in class, I got to listen to that. When a kid, your own kid at home's got a zit right here, you know? Do you listen to him? You say, oh, don't worry, hon, I had 30 when I was your age. That's not listening to your kid. Or if you hadn't eaten the french fries and the chocolate, you wouldn't have the zit. It's not listening to your kid. But you put your arm around a kid and say, you know what, it's a bummer to have a zit right here. It feels like your whole face is aglow. Let's see if there isn't something we can get to clear it up and cover it up. Which says to the kid, I hear you. You got a kid in class who's doing poorly. To say to the kid, you don't even try. If you'd have done this and this and this, you wouldn't have gotten the F. He knows that. But to say to the kid, I believe you can do this. Let's look at a plan. And kids, I can't do it. I say, I hear you. You're having trouble with it. when a kid says, this is boring, this is dumb, this is stupid, that's a good sign the kid doesn't feel good about himself, doesn't think he can do it. So I got to say, kid, I believe you can do it. Oh, we got another problem. We got a kid in the class says, I'm dumb, I'm stupid, I'm no good. What we tend to do is say, that's not true, we're arguing, and he's over 2.5, right? You're going to lose. Or we say, don't put yourself down like that. You're a good kid. And then we build him up. And then in special ed, we often do that and say, oh, that's not true. And kids learn if I put myself down, somebody else is going to pick me up. Lousy dependency tool. And it doesn't always happen when they get out in the real world. A kid says, I'm no good, I'm dumb, I'm stupid. All I ever say to that kid is, that's a put down. You don't have to put yourself down. I call it what it is. They hate it because I'm not rescuing them. I'm not trying to build them up. I'm just saying, calling it what it is. It's a put down. And the kid says, I'm no good. I say, it's a put down. Pretty soon they realize there's no payoff in this room for putting yourself down because all the woman ever says is that's a put down. And I've had students walk in and say, boy, am I stupid. You should have seen what I did on that exam. And before I can even get the words out, they say, that's a put down, isn't it? I say, you got it. You don't have to put yourself down. I want to teach kids that they can like themselves, they can think for themselves, and there truly is no problem so great it can't be solved. And I believe in our classrooms we can establish that backbone structure that says that. I believe we need then, after we've looked at those 4 rules, to look at our general area rules in the school. The 4 classroom rules are easy, but now we all, as a collective group, have to agree. I hate to get out on playground duty and have somebody say, Mrs. Jones lets us do that when she's on duty. In the general area rules, lunchroom, playground, hallways, bus lines, bathrooms, and you say, we don't have a playground in our high school. Yeah, you do. It's called a parking lot. In all of those areas, you and I must rise above our differences and come up with a set of rules we can live with, kids can live with, and consequences that are logical, realistic, and palatable to us. After you've done that, I believe you need to look at what you absolutely will not tolerate in your classrooms, in any classroom. And again, collectively, you must agree on that. And then I believe you have to teach kids how to kick themselves at a school in 6 easy steps so they can choose to stay in school and be productive by choice. But you need to begin to look at that in forming the backbone. But even after you've done all of that, the most critical thing you have to do is look in your own classrooms and say, do I believe in kids? Do I like them? Can I think for them, or are they thinking for themselves? Am I giving them the foundation to think for themselves? And after you've done all that, and you're kind, caring, consistent, and you're firm and you're fair, and you say what you mean what you say, you do what you said you were going to do, you've eliminated sarcasm, ridicule, embarrassment. You set it up so every kid knows where they're at, where they're going, and how they're going to get there. You teach with pizzazz. You've got all that going. You've listed responsibilities and decisions, classroom rules, logical, realistic, and palatable consequences go with those rules, major offenses you absolutely won't tolerate, a discipline cycle you can live with. You got all that done. And you've changed your bulletin boards recently. There's one thing you and I need to remember as educators we cannot do, nor do we want to if we really think about it, and that's control our students' will. That spirit to be themselves apart from you and me. They are not ours to possess, control, manipulate, or even to make mind.